The belief that the private sector and a free market can do everything better than the government is a bankrupt idea. Connaught Labs was proof.
Canada's vaccination rollout has been disastrous, with the country currently sitting at 46th in the world in terms of vaccination rate. Now in this video, I will detail why that is, including how privatization is a major piece of this, ruining Canada's ability to be able to produce the vaccine ourselves. But before I get to that, let me first remind you, how Canada did during the pandemic compared to at least a couple other major countries. So Daily New confirmed COVID-19 cases per million people. This is as of January 9th. You see here, Canada, not too bad compared to at least the UK and the US. But as the vaccines have rolled out over the past few months, you see here, US and UK numbers down considerably from where they were. Meanwhile, Canada sitting at about the same, because we have barely been able to vaccinate our own people. And again, I will get to reasons why. But now you look at COVID-19 vaccine doses administered per 100 people. Israel doing really well, UAE doing well, US doing well, Chile, Bahrain, Serbia, UK, Canada down here by itself. And if we go deeper into the list here, as I said, we're at number 46. You can scroll through this. I'll link to this below as well. See here, these are vaccinations by country per million people. Scroll all the way down, and eventually, at some point, we hit Canada right here between Kuwait and Cyprus. We're doing terribly. Now, there's a major reason for this. First here from the AP, Canada's behind on vaccinating its population because it lacks the ability to manufacture the COVID-19 vaccine and has had to rely on the global supply chain for the life-saving shots. And as I will get to and keep hinting at here, privatization a major piece of this. The vaccine supply chain difficulties have forced Canada to extend the time between the first shot and the second by up to 4 months so that everyone can be protected faster with the primary dose. The hope is to get all adults at least one shot by the end of June. The end of June is the ultimate goal here. You have in the US, every American being able to at least schedule their shot by May 1st. Canada, end of June is pretty much the dream at this point. What we're actually hearing is hopefully by the end of September, most people will be vaccinated. But at the rate at which we're going, it's unlikely we'll even hit that. Now, what is the major reason for this? The fact that we sold off a company called Connaught Labs in 1984. So this was a medicine and vaccine producer and developer that was established in 1914. They were a world leader in vaccine production, and the Conservative government in 1984 privatized them. More from the start here, from the early part of the 20th century, Connaught created and produced high-quality medical treatments and vaccines for all Canadians, including vaccines for smallpox, tetanus, diphtheria, and whooping cough. As Canadian medical historian Christopher Ruddy has documented, Connaught had so distinguished itself as a vaccine producer that when the World Health Organization launched a global campaign to eradicate smallpox in the 1960s, it turned to Connaught for help, according to Ruddy. In that campaign, Connaught was tasked with improving standards for smallpox vaccine production throughout the Western Hemisphere. Connaught scientists traveled to 12 Latin American countries to teach Connaught's methods. And at WHO's request, Connaught produced a stockpile of 25 million doses of the smallpox vaccine in case of an outbreak in Latin America. This is why Canada is lagging behind, because we had our very own world leader in medicine and vaccine production. And our conservative government back in the 1980s sold it off, privatized it. This is what conservative and liberal governments both do, this neoliberal approach of privatization, looking to the free market for the solution, and what happens? We end up in 46th place in the world. More here, and by the way, this article, great article by Linda McQuaig of the Toronto Star, so you can check it out. I'll link to it below the video. A little more here from her piece. What makes our predicament today particularly galling is that Ottawa invests roughly $1 billion a year to fund medical research by scientists at Canadian universities without any control over the results. The scientists are permitted to take out patents on the products they develop with our money and then sell them to pharmaceutical manufacturers who sell the product to the public, often at great profit. So, again, this is what actually happens. We invest into the production of these medicines, invest in these universities. What happens then? Do we benefit from that investment? No. Who benefits? Private companies. Big Pharma benefits from our money, our research, our investment into medicine. Private companies take that and sell it back to us, even though we paid for the research into it. And by the way, again, this is both liberal and conservative. This is a neoliberal ideology. This is looking to the free market, looking to privatization for the solution. And every time, we get screwed. Now, I have a couple of clips here back to back. I'm going to show you Paul Manley of the Green Party and Nikki Ashton of the NDP who have raised this issue of needing to be able to develop our own medicine and vaccines.
The belief that the private sector and a free market can do everything better than the government is a bankrupt idea. Connaught Labs was proof. They provided affordable medicines and vaccines that saved lives and made Canada a world leader in public health. The free market has brought us more expensive medicines and a focus on profit. Canada needs a universal pharmacare system, and a publicly owned model of medicine, development, and production will make it affordable. Privatizing Connaught Labs put us farther behind in our fight against COVID-19. It's time to go back to a common sense model that serves the common good.
Speaker, the back and forth between the Liberals and the Conservatives on the vaccine show what's wrong with our politics. They're blaming each other while leaving Canadians in the lurch. It's rare that I say this, but they have a point. When Liberals say the Conservatives privatized and ravaged our national capacity for production, they're not wrong. When Conservatives point to decades of Liberal austerity that got us here, they're also not wrong. But it's Canadians that are paying the price. Lives are at stake. When will this government invest in the publicly owned national production of the vaccine so that Canadians get what they need?
Of course, they're both right. But we don't operate under that system. Instead, we look to privatization and the free market for the solution. And again, we end up in 46th place in the world in vaccine production. We had the ability to produce the vaccine ourselves. We have the ability now to reinvest back into public ownership of these industries, invest money back into creating our own medicine or vaccine producer. But no. Instead, the investment goes into private companies who we've already given money to by investing our money into universities that develop and research into these medicines. And then that research sold off to large companies and they benefit, selling us back the medicine that we already invested into. It's a completely insane system, and anybody defending it is ridiculous. Anyone defending the system, they are either personally benefiting financially in some way, or they're just stupid. Because this is a completely ridiculous way to have medicine produced and distributed in this country. It clearly is not benefiting us whatsoever, and the only parties upholding this insane system are the Conservatives and Liberals, the two parties that we keep voting for. Why? You just saw two other potential choices there, but no. Last thing here, I covered the IP waiver aspect of this in a video titled Big Pharma Lobbies Biden to Punish Poor Countries. This also has to do with Canada. So the US, Canada, and the UK have pushed against the recommendation of waiving the IP to the vaccination, meaning that if it was waived, we'd be able to produce the vaccine at much larger rates because no longer would it be under the control of just a few major countries or a few major companies. But Canada, even though we are so far behind in the vaccination rate, we have decided to be on the side of Big Pharma and push against the idea of waiving the IP. So if you want more information on that, watch that video. I'll link to it above and below as well. But there is so much more we could be doing, but we're not.